My name's Brittany. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to give you an inside look at different tools and modalities to help you with your mental health, wellness, and beauty while igniting your sunshine and living a beautiful life.
All right, I am here with Nicole Walcott. She is a dear friend of mine. She is a veteran, a mom, and an entrepreneur. She owns Fayetteville Wellness Center. It is a float center here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. She also sits on the board of the Float Industries Conference and Committee. So we're here. You're going to tell us a little bit about float therapy. Also, we're going to talk about mental health and floating and some different things that goes along with that. So tell us about floating.
Yeah. So flotation therapy has been around since the 40s and 50s. During the 80s and the AIDS epidemic, it kind of went away because people were worried about being in bodies of water that were...
Thought about that.
I know. I had no idea until I started to kind of look into the history of it. But so then it got more popular in the early 2000s when some athletes started to take advantage of it for athletic recovery. And so I found floating in 2016 through my own struggles with chronic pain. So I had a spinal cord injury while I was stationed in Korea. Had a lot of chronic pain, ended up getting out of the Army because of it. And when I went to the VA to ask them about what my options were, it was pills or physical therapy. And I didn't want to really do either of those. So I found floating. Once I laid in the water, within 10 minutes, I was pain-free. And I had been suffering from chronic pain for over 3 years. So I just knew it was a game changer. And when I came home to North Carolina, I Googled it to find somewhere, like it wasn't even on my radar that floating was going to be a business. And I Googled it, and there wasn't a center within 90 miles of Fayetteville. So I was like, business opportunity. So that's when I started to look into it and some of the science behind it, which really there is some amazing science, but floating in itself is very simple. It is about anywhere from 11 to 12 inches of body temperature water with about 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. So that inherently makes the water really dense. So anybody that's traveled to the Dead Sea would understand what that's like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. However, it takes a whole nother component because the entire environment is sensory controlled. We try to stay away from the term sensory deprivation because it has a negative connotation, because you don't want to deprive yourself of anything. So it's a sensory controlled environment to where you can choose whether you would like light and the varying level of it. So you know, because you floated before, you could do it with the lights fully on, you can do it with underwater lights on, or you can do it in the pitch black. You can do it with complete silence, or you can have your own music playing. Also, the air and the water are actually heated exactly to skin temperature, which is slightly cooler than core. So your core is about 98.6 degrees, your skin is about 93.4. So what happens when the water and the air are matched to your skin, it actually turns off the receptors in your skin that sense hot and cold.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And so that actually signals your brain to stop trying to achieve homeostasis. So whether you're either cooling or heating your body. So when your brain stops doing that, it takes a huge load off of your body, because besides digestion, keeping homeostasis, like temperature regulation, is the number one source of like energy depletion in your body. So when all of that happens, plus because of the amount of Epsom salt in the water, it creates this environment to where there's nothing your body needs to do but breathe. And so it allows for some really amazing healing.
Relaxation, my goodness.
Yeah, so a lot of relaxation, and then in turn healing. So a lot of people come to us for the physical part, because it's so easy to say, like, I hurt here, let me fix this part right here. And they don't think about the mental part at all. And when I opened the business, I was really nervous about, in a military community that suffers a lot from PTSD and TBI. How do you offer a service that is all about like expanding your consciousness and diving deep into your traumas to people that can't even admit that they might have PTSD?
Yep.
So we started off by just marketing like the physical aspect of it. If you're in pain, we're going to give you almost guaranteed pain relief for at least the time that you're floating. Most clients see relief anywhere from like 48 hours to a week afterwards. And then that's how you kind of get hooked in, is because you come for the physical benefits, but something happens in the tank. And we know as owners and researchers scientifically what happens, but the average client has no idea.
No idea. And I feel like you need to experience it for you to truly understand what it's doing to your mental state as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's funny because you could explain it to somebody a million times, and it's just something it's like almost like childbirth, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
You have to experience it to be able to understand. But so what happens when you cut off all the sensory inputs and you're essentially forcing your body to say, hey, there's nothing that you need to be doing right now, just breathe and like have your heartbeat. It puts your body in this deep state of relaxation. So it actually changes your brain waves to the theta brainwave state, which is right before you go into your REM sleep cycle. So a lot of times, and I think that you had mentioned this once when you floated, you are not fully asleep, but you're also not fully awake. You're
it's
in
like
this
a dream state that you
lucid dreaming.
Like, you know you're awake, but you're taken completely somewhere else.
Yeah, and so that it's those moments to where your brainwaves actually change, and so that state of where your brain is super, super restorative. So that's why people will sometimes come out and say, I feel like I just slept for 6 hours, or they'll come out and say they have so much energy or whatever it is, and that's because we're actually allowing our brains to take a super deep reset. We're also allowing our bodies to take a very deep reset as well. And so when you combine those two things together, the mental and the physical reset, it just creates these like beautiful results of like not only chronic pain reduction, but like stress reduction and anxiety reduction. Sleeping issues kind of tend to just fall by the wayside. Most of the time clients will say they get the best sleep like the night that they floated. So
I think one of our biggest problems as a society is we can't turn off ever. We are constantly attached to our phone. We are constantly attached to our to-do list. What's next? What are we supposed to be doing? So when you're in the tank, you have nothing. You are laying there, and it's like, and it sometimes is a challenge to actually like shut that off. But your body, like you said, your body's not doing anything. It needs nothing in this moment. So other than to relax. I know when I was in the tank, I did it, no lights, anything like that. And I felt like a Care Bear, like bouncing around, and I just released. I did have a moment of fear, because fears will pop up in your subconscious too. So at one point, and I have struggled with anxiety, so at one point I had to turn on the lights and just open the door, which that's okay. You're still getting the benefit with the lights on and the door open, correct?
yeah, so like that's what the beauty of the tank that we have is. You can do as little or as much sensory deprivation as you want. And you will always get the physical benefits of that zero gravity like environment in your body. And even if you choose to keep the lights on or you choose to keep the music on, you can still have that reduced, because the room itself is soundproofed and the room itself is temperature regulated and all of those great things. So you can still get some of those benefits of just having a reduced sensory input environment, to where it allows you to kind of slowly go into it. I mean, we've had clients who've had some serious traumas that cannot do the full therapy right away, and it may take them weeks, but then once they finally do it, it's like it's terrible. It's like a light goes off. And it's the same thing to where like when people do their first float, a lot of times it takes them anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes to figure out what's going on, what's comfortable, things like that. But it's something that we hear over and over again. It's like once they find the right position, and it's normally, people don't realize this, it's normally once they can release their neck.
Oh, and just let it fall back and actually just like let yourself float instead of being like, oh, I need to keep this up. I need to like,
yeah.
It's actually just being like, no, I'm going to just lay here and let my body relax.
Yeah, which is actually funny because that's a twofold experience.
Yeah.
So number one, it's because we've just been ingrained in our heads to think that if I'm in water and I put my head back, it's going to sink because of the water that we swim in. And then the second thing, which is even more intriguing, is the whole trust thing. You have to trust you have to trust that we know what we're doing and we've made the solution to the proper salinity, so it is going to hold you. But then you have to trust that water is going to hold you up. Yeah. Even though it's only, like, you can't drown. It's 11 inches.
Yeah,
like,
you can't.
It goes to your
even
calf.
if you started, like, if you fell asleep and, like, really, if something happened, it's not going to, but you would catch yourself, like, but it's not even possible for that to happen. But it's a brain thing. Like, you sometimes really have to be like, no, brain, don't listen right now. You're fine. You're relaxed. Just allow to receive this environment that is controlled, and you can trust it.
Yep. And we find that people that struggle the most are the ones that have never spent any time with themselves, like either in meditation or just in a quiet area by themselves, and ones that don't understand the practice of meditation. And this is also a really great way to introduce people to meditation. So someone that maybe doesn't think that they would be able to sit in a quiet space for 20 to 30 minutes without their brain going crazy, or the distractions of being in your home or being wherever, this gives you no other choice. I mean, you can get out at any point in time. There's nothing locking you in, nothing like that. But because it cuts everything off for you, you can kind of shortcut into meditation before you're, actually doing much. So,
which the interesting thing about meditation is that a lot of people have been talking to me about that recently. Like, are you thinking of anything while you're meditating? Are you listening to things when you're meditating? Are you just allowing the emptiness? Which, when you practice true meditation, you are allowing just the emptiness of it. However, it's not something that you just get right off the bat. That's a very big practice, and sometimes can take weeks, months, years, depending upon how active your mind is. So when I have been in the tank, or when I'm meditating, oftentimes, and I was telling this to my girls the other day at the studio, because they're like, how do you just be silent? I'm like, well, when things pop into my brain, I just flick them. In Britney fashion, I feel like that is very in what I do, but these thoughts will come into my mind, and I'm like, nope, not right now. Okay, I recognize you, I see you, but we're not doing this right now, so I just flick them away until later.
Yeah, and see, it's funny because, so for me, I have probably floated over 100 times. I mean, we've been open for over almost 5 years coming up.
That is insane that it's been that long.
I know,
wow, yeah.
I know. And so it is something to where, it's like I think about floats kind of hand in hand with meditation, because I don't have a great meditation practice outside of floating. Yeah. But floating is kind of my meditation practice. And so it's something to where, like, it also depends on what's going on in your life at that moment in time, because I have literally had floats, and I'm fortunate because I'm the owner that I'm not paying for it. So I'll be like, oh, I know I've been here for 10 minutes. I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm just getting out. Like, I'm so frustrated. I'm done. Yeah. And so then I get out. But then there's other times to where, like, I struggle through the whole thing, but I stay in. Yeah. But it was tough, right? And then there's other times to where, like, I just feel called to just get in the tank. And those are, like, the best experiences. And it's just something to where I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know, like, whatever was going to happen. But the times that I just, like, let everything go and just and this is what I tell clients all the time, don't have any expectations.
Yeah.
Don't try to do anything. Just let the tank do what it does. And so it's funny when you say the flicking, I think of mine as like a river.
Yeah.
So like when the thoughts flow in, I just recognize them and I just let them flow right out. And I don't attach myself to them. And I think that that's like a beautiful practice that people should start adopting more often.
And in your daily life. I think that so often we could just be having conversations with people and not be present in the moment and be thinking, oh, all these different things. Well, no, I want to enjoy your company. I want to enjoy your presence. So I need to let those thoughts be taken away for the time being so I can actually enjoy our time together.
Yeah, and I think too it's interesting because I think you had said so, but I have ADHD. And so I think that I have to be even more conscious of letting the thoughts flow through because of my like squirrel, like, hey, this, all of a sudden it's, you know, all these thoughts come through. And if I don't really focus on letting them go, then I will get distracted all throughout the day. And so I think that it's even more of a practice for neurodivergent people like us.
Yeah, where you just are constantly, oh, this and this and this, and oh, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe I should do this. I think that's our constant chatter in our head.
And it's funny because people do this all the time. You always assume that everybody's like you.
Yeah.
And I said to my boyfriend one night, I was like, what are you thinking about?
I've done this.
He was like, nothing. And I said, wait, what? And he was like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times where there's just nothing in my head. Like, I just don't think of anything. And I was like, wow, what is that like?
I know. I asked, Andrew was sitting on the couch one night and I walked downstairs because I was working upstairs and I was like, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm just sitting here. There's nothing on my mind.
Yeah.
Like, wow, people exist like that.
Well,
now I've been practicing it.
Yeah.
I've been definitely practicing it.
But then it's funny because like, so I'll have like so then when we had that conversation, he was like, what is it like inside your brain? And I was like, oh, do you really want to go there right now? And I told him, I was like, this is exactly like, let me tell you, if we're talking about one thing, it'll spark 5 other thoughts.
Yep.
And he literally looked at me and said, that sounds exhausting. And I was like, bingo, welcome.
I feel like
Thank you.
this is all the time.
But that's why it's so important to have, especially for people like us, to have a place, whether it is the float tank or whether it's like a quiet space in your house or something like that, to where you can have that time where even if you are actively working at it, that it is nothing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that centering space, then you create like that nervous energy in your body that like everybody sees.
Yeah. And you feel like once that becomes the norm, then that's all you know. And it seems when you're not in that state where all those things are popping in, that something's wrong with you. I know as the progression of meditation and float and all the different tools that I've brought into my life over the last couple of years, sometimes I think, wow, I feel very calm right now. Is this normal? And for people like us, it seems weird or it seems not characteristic. And it's like, no, these are the new characters. This is the new story that I'm telling in my head. And it's good and it feels good. But at first you're going, wait a second.
Am I forgetting something?
Am I forgetting something is the biggest thing.
And then paired with the anxiety, because like you can't just have ADHD. You always got to have like something else with it.
Yes.
So it's like the ADHD plus the anxiety. So then all of a sudden you're calm and you're like, oh, is something wrong? Uh-oh, something's wrong. I know it. I must be like forgetting 10,000 things. Like I got to be doing something. Yeah. And so then it's like, you're right, it really is a practice. You just like have to constantly bring yourself back to like, it is our jobs as business owners, as moms, like even little furry moms, to be the ones that are the calm. Yeah. Because we're the ones that have to be able to run everything. And so like if we ourselves are all over the place and we can't keep one constant thought, how does that reflect in our children and our staff? Like, I wouldn't want to work there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want, or if that was my kid, I'd be like, Mom, relax.
Well, I think back, I've been revisiting 2019 a lot, and that was the second year into the new studio, and
Yeah.
it was a rough, I'm just looking at my past posts, and I'm like, gosh, I was always on edge, and my staff could see me in back, the other girls, and see me in back crying at all times. Now it's one of those things, I'm like, oh, you want to do that? Go for it. I don't need to micromanage anything. I don't need to control things. I can sit back, I can relax, I can be aware of situations, but not be as upset when things go wrong. I mean, I walked into the studio not too long ago, and there's water everywhere, all over. And all the girls were like, it's okay, everything will be okay, it's fine. Like, they were waiting for my reaction because they knew that this is something that before I would have been just in tears and crying and like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Da, da, da. And I walked in and I was like, all right, yep, you cleaned it up, looks good. I'm going to call the I can't change the situation, so why am I going to overstress it right now? And I think practices like being in the float tank where you're very intentional. I mean, for those things, for going into meditation, going into floating, or even a massage or anything like that, if you go in with intention, being like, this is my intention to be super present right now, then all of that fear, worries, anxiety can kind of drop off in a way. So you guys have memberships, which is phenomenal, because it's like, well, if you start doing it and you have a schedule, especially if you pre-schedule everything, you're like, no, this is my time, this is my hour of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be intentional, and I will do this for the hour, and it's such a relief.
Yeah.
But it's taking that time out of your day.
Well, and I think too is that, you know, we make it a priority to schedule everything else.
Yeah.
Like, we make it a priority to schedule doctor's appointments, we make it a priority to schedule dentist appointments. What about the self-care? Because that's just as important.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not taking care of your own mental health, they're like, spoiler alert, nobody else is going to take care of your mental health. There is no therapist on the face of this earth, no doctor, no nothing that can be inside your head.
Yeah.
And they can understand exactly what you're going through and what you're doing. And like, you know, you talk about 2019, I mean, you and I both know, like, 2019 almost literally physically killed me. And it was because I was on this quest to like conquer everything but I didn't think about what the cost was. Yeah. And it's funny because I have this, you know, I've told you a million times, I have this amazing life and business coach, and, you know, he has helped me so much in so many ways, but one of the big things that I'm focusing on this year is I sometimes get pigeonholed into a goal or into a deadline, and I will kill myself. Like, I will do anything to hit that target because that's my motivation. And so I realized it's just as important to me the way that I got there as to actually getting there. Yeah. And so this year I've decided that the journey is just as important as the goal. And if I'm sacrificing my mental health, my family's mental health to reach a goal, how important is that goal? It's not.
It's not.
And it's like, along the way we have to prioritize our own mental health, because if we're not healthy, no one around us can be healthy. You can't pour, like, all of those cliched things.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Can't pour from an empty cup, you know, or whatever. You can't squeeze water out of you can't squeeze water out of a rock, or like oil out of there's a thing. You can't give what you don't have. And that's part of the thing is like, we really all, and I think especially us as women, because we always put ourselves last, because there's always a million things before us, because we know at the end of the day, as much as we love our boyfriends and spouses and all that stuff, it's not going to get done if we don't do it, most likely, or if we at least don't oversee the doing of it. So it's like, but if we're sick, like, and we're not functioning at this level all the time, like, we can't get it all done. So it's like, what are we going to do to get us there?
And I think people forget that the correlation between mental health and your physical health is very it's like this.
Stress will literally kill you.
It will kill you.
It will literally kill you. I don't know who I was having this conversation with. It manifests in your body now.
Yeah.
And I was watching a TikTok, which I have now turned to TikTok for all of my life advice. But no, there's really good,
there's good
doctors and therapists that are trying to expand their reach. But so there was a therapist that was talking about, and I think it's brilliant, it typically takes 2 to 3 generations for the masses to catch up with scientifically discovered information. So
wow.
It was in having to do with parenting and the cry it out method. But so she was saying the cry it out method was, kind of debunked, and it's really bad for the babies 2 to 3 generations ago. So now we're just starting to adopt that as a widely known practice. And so I think what you're going to find out is that doctors now, and within the last 5-7 years, are discovering that hey, these people are having heart attacks and high blood pressure
at 40 years old
because they're stressed out. They're these super healthy people that eat right, that exercise, but there's something missing, and it's the whole stress, because when you're stressed, you're put into this fight or flight
always
response.
Yeah.
And when you're in that fight or flight world, your brain starts flooding your body with all of adrenaline and cortisol and things like that. And so what happens is, if you don't take you can't live like that. That was designed for when we were cave people and we were escaping things that were trying to eat us.
Yeah.
And we don't have that anymore, but now we have the chronic, which is worse than the acute. It's the low levels of the cortisol and the adrenaline, but they are in our lives every single day. Constantly. And that builds up over time, and that's why you see, I don't know why Britney Spears comes to mind, but that's why you see people that have breakdowns and shave their head, or they have mental breakdowns and they do whatever, because the stress will kill you. It will kill you physically, it will kill you mentally, and if you don't do things about it now while your body is whispering to you, your body will scream, and you will have no other choice but to fix it.
And that's the biggest thing. Listen to the whispers. Because
yes.
They just will continuously grow and grow and yell, and then all of a sudden you're laying down because your back is completely broken at the time, and you can't move because you're so stressed out that you locked your entire body up. Yes, I know this. I know this. Nicole has massage therapy too, and she sent someone over to my studio because I'm crying, unable to move, and it's just because I wasn't listening to the little whispers of take a break. Don't put this much on top of you. Stop saying yes. You're allowed to say no when you are unable to function. You're allowed to say no even when you're not unable to function, just so that you don't get to that point. And that was such a lesson for me, because
learning to say no.
Yeah, learning to say no.
Mm-hmm. It's to me, it's become so freeing.
Yeah,
I love it now. I'm nope.
I will not do that.
And because I think what it actually comes down to at the end of the day is, this is a much longer discussion for a different time. Maybe we'll do another video about it. But people don't know what they truly want in life and what they truly hold valuable. So if you don't know what your actual values are, what your actual goals are, of course you're going to say yes to everything, because you don't know where you're going. We were not meant to just work 40 years or 50 years and pay bills and die.
No.
We are meant for so much more, but we just get complacent because we have cell phones and computers and TVs and whatever. But it's there's such a bigger picture out there, and if we can really figure out what we truly want in life and align ourselves with those goals, it becomes so easy, because then it's oh, is this in alignment? Is this getting me closer to what I want to do?
Yeah.
If it's not,
no,
then you just say no.
Yeah.
And then it's so easy, and it makes you less stressed.
It's so important to write those out, because I think that a lot of people are well, I really don't know. Well, start writing. Start writing all the things down that are important to you. Start writing all the things down that you want to achieve over the next 5 years, whether it be in your business, in your home life, in your marriage. Start writing it out so that you have a piece of paper that says, oh, yeah, this doesn't align. I think a lot of us are like, well, maybe this will align because it seems like a good idea right now.
Yeah.
No, go back to your values. Go back to that core set of things that...
And people don't even know what their values are.
No.
If you were to ask, if I were to sit down with like 10 of my closest, well, maybe not my closest friends, because we're all different, but like if I were to sit down with maybe 10 of my clients and ask them like, what are their 3 values and what are like 3 of their long-term goals, I would say maybe 1 would know.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say that. I have a funny story. So I went through a divorce in the beginning of, end of last year, beginning of this year, and I stuck my toe in the dating pool.
Yeah.
And it was maybe my whole foot. Maybe I took like a whole nose dive into it.
Fun couple of months.
It was a fun couple of months, but I started to get frustrated towards the like middle of it because I told my coach about it, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong, but there's the men out there.
Yeah.
Like something's wrong with them. And in true coaching fashion, he was like, well,
that is true.
I mean, what are you like, who are you attracting? What do you want in a partner? And I was like, oh, I've never really thought about that. I figured that when we met, we would just click, which is partially true. But again, it's like writing out what you want. It's like, if you don't know what you want, so he had me sit down and write down like everything that I wanted in a partner, and then I starred the things that were non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like for me, clear communication at all times, even when it's difficult, is a non-negotiable for me. Mm-hmm. And I starred that and I wrote it down, you know, like showing love and affection even when we're not wanting to is a big thing for me, star. And then I realized when I met my current boyfriend, I had written that list down because I wrote it down and I had tucked it away somewhere and I hadn't looked at it in a while. And then all of a sudden it was funny because it was like I met this man of my dreams and I looked at the list
and it all aligned.
All of the non-negotiables aligned. All the non-negotiables aligned.
Yeah.
Some of the nice things aligned too, but then I realized that like I had stupid stuff on there like must have a beard. Like he doesn't have a beard.
Yeah, that's
it's not important.
Yes.
But the important things aligned, and not because it just happened. It's because I wrote it down.
Intentional.
I brought it into. I was intentional. I manifested it. And when you can write it and you can see it, then you think about it.
Yeah.
And you think about like, and you put that energy out of what you want and what you won't accept.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
It is beautiful, but going back to taking that time and space, you have to slow down. You have to make time for like going in a float tank for an hour, maybe once a month, once a week, depending upon what you need. You need to make space for that meditation. You need to make space for that self-care, or you'll never start thinking of what you truly, truly want. And I do a practice every night where I just write out my future. And I start with gratitude and write down everything that I'm grateful for, and then I move into what I foresee happening, what I am allowing into my life, I guess you would say. And it's been a beautiful practice every single night where I feel great about ending my day in gratitude and then also in excitement about the future. So, and these are the things that you can lay down and do in the float tank. These are things that you can lay down and do in meditation. I do stuff in the car to remind myself.
Oh, all the time. My favorite thing ever, and because I am, as much as I am a hippy-dippy, woo-woo girl sometimes, I love technology, right? So I have an Alexa everywhere. And one of the cool hacks that I learned with my Alexas is that while I'm like walking around my house thinking about something, because I do work from home a lot, I will just say, hey, Alexa, put this on my to-do list. And so then I ask her, at night to read me my to-do list. And it's not even to-dos, it's like a thought or something I have. And then I can write it down. And then it's like on the screen too, so I can see it.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because it goes back to being intentional. Like, if you want these things in your life, be intentional with your time.
Yep.
So how often do we find ourselves like we've gone through the whole day, especially us as business owners, where we have a lot of that flexibility, and like we weren't intentional with our time, and what did we get done all day?
That can happen because you get pulled.
You get
pulled in so many different areas that you're like, oh wait, I didn't get any of this
Or
done.
you get pulled in these little minute tasks like checking your email or returning phone calls or things like that, to where you've not actually done anything you needed to do or
Yeah.
you wanted to do. So it's like, you know, being really intentional with our time. And like one of my favorite things to do is it's a ritual on Sunday. His name is Jake. My boyfriend Jake and I, we sit down and we look at our calendar and we just kind of plan out the week, and we say, okay, what are the big things that are not going to move, right?
Yeah.
Like doctor's appointments, standing things with some of the things that we do. And then we're like, okay, so what else are we trying to do? Are we trying to go on a date night this night? Are we trying to, you know, cook this night or whatever
Yeah.
it is? And then once he's done with that part, because he's not, doesn't want to do it to the level that I do, I sit down and I'm like, okay, so I know on Monday I want to get X, Y, and Z done.
Yeah.
And I put it down there, and I only do like 2 to 3 things.
Don't overwhelm yourself. I think
The to-do list.
the to-do list
is a killer.
I look at 2020 was a huge valuable lesson for myself, as for many people,
Many business owners.
owners. But I stopped doing a routine and doing things and setting down because I was so afraid to go back into my 2019 self where I overworked myself. But like you said, put 2 or 3 things down that have to be done, and then if you can pick up other things to do as well, then that's fine. And I think over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of started implementing my routine again, and implementing the fact of like, okay, this day is this day is this, and accepting if I don't get through that list, but also not overpacking it. So putting only 2 to 3 things down, especially if they're big things. Why do I think that I can start a website in one day, get finished, and do all of my social media posts for a week, and also answer all my emails, and also go grocery shopping? Like, no, those are not things that I can start and finish in one day.
Because don't you know, we're superwomen and we can do it all, because we think we can do it all, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Because we overschedule ourselves, knowing somewhere in the back of our head we can't accomplish it all. We think we can accomplish it all. We don't accomplish it all. We stress out about not being good enough. We couldn't accomplish it all, even though we're the ones that did it to ourselves because we just overbooked ourselves.
Yep.
So like maybe we need to like go back to square one, to where so this is something that I learned that really helps me. I don't ever make to-do lists anymore, ever, because it'll kill you. You'll get lost in like the 20,000 things. I have my big things and I backwards plan.
Yeah.
I backwards plan.
Yes, I love backwards planning.
For the month and then for the year and all that stuff. And the year looks like buy a house or get a new car or, develop, a consistent meditation practice. But then I back it out to like, okay, if like I just moved, if I want to get out of my house by this date,
what do you have to do?
Yep. And then it's like it's chunks. I like chunk it down and chunk it up whenever it feels like it's either too much or not enough.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm able to do it that way, to say, okay, like I know what I need to do, and then I also know like if I do those 2 or 3 things, here's what the rest of my week looks like. I could actually move things around and get this one thing done, and then have more free time to go on a date, or to go pick my kids up early from daycare and take them for ice cream and let them tweak out on sugar or whatever it's going to be, you know? So it's just like, I think really the key is, and it kind of wraps it all back in, is like, if you want to do something, whether it's develop a meditation practice, start a business, get closer to your spouse, spend more quality time with your children, start being intentional about what you want, start being intentional about how you spend your time.
Yes.
And it'll all work out from there.
I truly believe that, because I'm working on this project right now. You're actually the first person that I'm videoing. I'm getting my friends first as I get comfortable, and then progressing.
If you don't know business owners, you know that we make all of our friends do all of the things to try them out. Brittany was the second person in my tank. The first one was one of my best friends, Kelsey. But we make everybody be guinea pigs.
Everyone be guinea pigs. It's starting with spray tanning.
Yeah.
Like, I had all my friends come and, like, I completely botched all their tans at first. But, you know, now
or like when you
they don't care.
Or like when you get a new solution, you're like, hey, can you come down and spray tan model? I was like, free spray tan? Hell yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I know, we just got a new solution in that you need to come down and try.
Yes.
We just got it. But it is all about intentions. And I think working on this project, I don't know if I even showed you what this looks like. I think I just talked about it with you.
I would do it, yeah.
Of, like, I want to produce 24 videos in 4 weeks and, like, I'm being really intentional right now with my time. So I was like, okay, I see from August to January, now I'm working backwards. And that was, like, a huge thing for me. So I'm scheduling out, 5 a week. 5 a week doesn't seem that much because they're going to be 20 minutes to 40 minutes. It's fun, it's lighthearted, but going from that big goal and working it way back down. And that's just such a beautiful lesson for anyone that is trying to get to the next level, trying to just feel better every day. I think people just think that they need to live in misery too.
Well, and my coach and I talk about this all the time. We make it so much harder on ourselves.
Yes.
Because life doesn't have to be so difficult.
It really doesn't.
Things can be hard. Anything that's worthy is going to be hard, because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Which I wouldn't even say hard. I would say it would be strategically planned.
Well, but flow with me here. So things are hard because it requires hard work.
Yeah.
But we make them unnecessarily difficult for no reason.
Yeah.
And so it's like, for me, it's so interesting to hear people who are like constantly, like, for lack of a better word, bitching about like everything. And I just have such a different mindset now. Like, oh, okay, cool. Well, so what do you think you're going to do to solve that problem? And they're like, well, I mean, how can you complain about something if
you're not going to do anything?
You're not going to do anything about it. And then why complain about it in the first place?
Yes.
And then you come down to the root of the problem, which is always an emotional thing, and we can't talk about emotions here in America. But, like, spoiler alert, if you get control,
it's all about emotion.
And if you get control of your emotions and you feel them and you honor them, but you don't let them drive the bus,
yes,
you are the master of your own world,
yes,
and like your own life. And so it's so funny because it's like people that kind of do stuff like that, when you really get down beneath the surface, it's an emotional thing. Like, they complain about it because they're afraid if they change it, they don't know what's going to happen.
It's easier to stay where you're at because you know it. So if it's hard and it's uncomfortable, well, at least I know it's hard and uncomfortable. It could get harder. Like, that's the biggest thing. My computer just died, so hopefully this lovely camera will do its work. I don't know why that just happened. But
it's not plugged in.
It's not plugged in. Yes, that would be the reason. Have some great outtakes, but that is one of those things that goes back to not changing, or like accepting where you're at. I've had to realize some things you can't change, so you just have to accept it, while other things you can change them. So it's either accept where you're at and be at peace with it, so don't complain, because it's just going to make your life even in that spiral loop of this is hell, this is annoying, this is hell, this is annoying, if you keep saying it, or change it.
Or like change your mindset.
Change your mindset.
It's all about mindset. It's like, if you know something is going to suck. Like, I had to drive from Michigan back to North Carolina by myself.
Yeah.
With my 2 little kids.
Yeah.
That are lovely, and I love them. In the car, especially love them. I'm just going to say that to myself.
Love them so much.
I love them so much in the car. They're so wonderful. But it was like, I knew that drive was going to suck. But if I kept saying, like, oh my God, this drive's going to suck.
I'm going to plug that in.
It's going to be horrible, blah, blah, blah. Then it would be something to where it was going to make it worse. But if I just change my mindset to say, like, hey, like, this is what I'm doing for the next 2 days. It is what it's going to be. And at least let me try to make the best out of it, like, while I'm here. So it's like, guess what? That drive actually wasn't that bad.
It's not because you had to do it.
I didn't. I drove there. I had to drive back. Like, I can't stay in Michigan forever. I don't want, not that I don't love Michigan, but I need to be home.
Yeah.
And so it was something to where it's like, you just have to change your mindset to like, this is what we're doing now. And once we get through it, I'm also a big fan of rewards.
Yeah.
So like, even just, and I think too, like, we as Americans, we don't reward ourselves enough. Even just the simple, like,
good job.
Good job. Like, my coach does this all the time, and I used to think it was so silly in the beginning. I felt so awkward doing it. But it's like, every time that I had, like, every time we would meet, we would have, hey, tell me one thing that you accomplished this week.
Yeah.
And tell me what you did to accomplish it. Like, what was the one thing you did? And you tell them what your victory is for the week. And then you put yourself in a receiving mode, and then you raise your hand up, pat yourself on the back, and you say, good job with your name.
Good job.
And then everybody claps and says, good job. And it looks so crazy, and it sounds so crazy, but what the thing is that I realized that, like, I started to adopt it, and I would use it, and I'd be like, I have to put my own flair in, because you know I love a good curse word.
Yep.
So I'd be like, yeah, fuck it up. You got it. You just got that. Yeah, girl. And then I find myself doing this all the time now, and people think I'm insane.
No, you be your own cheerleader. Like, let's get
exactly.
pumped up.
It's like little things, like I'm trying to pick up a big box and like shove it into my car, or like I'm trying to figure out something at the center, and my staff knows I'm insane, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, there Nicole goes, like cheering herself up about, like, you know, getting into the computer and remembering her password. But it's the little things, and it's like being, like, celebrating the little wins.
Yes.
And making it goes back to, like, it's all about the journey and not about the destination.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think that's a great practice to start with your friends too. Like, once a week, being like, what did you do this week that was really exciting, and what you accomplished, like, and not feel bad if it was, I took one whole day and slept because I needed it. Good for you. You slept all day, and you listened to your body, like.
Or like, I took a shower today. I got out of bed today. Sometimes you have those weeks to where, like, that's a fucking victory.
It is a victory. Last night I wrote down, every day I'm going to do the best I can today. Now, today might look different than tomorrow, but I'm doing the best that I can today. And it was funny because it was when I was washing my face that I was like, am I going to do my whole skincare routine right now? Or am I just going to wash my face and go to bed? Or, no, today I'm going to do wash my face, put the toner on, put the vitamin C on, and really, but it's like what you're doing is your best for today. And that looks different every single day. And accepting that that's okay.
Yep.
I think that was the hardest thing for me, is to accept that, like, sometimes the best is that I slept all day.
But that's what you needed.
That's what I needed.
And that's true balance.
Yeah.
And that is something that people forget, is that, like, I've been seeing more and more people sharing on social media this one little meme about we've got to stop congratulating ourselves and normalizing overworking.
We have to.
And I think
we have to.
And I think part of it too was that because there's this huge thing going on in the world right now to where, like, companies are trying to get their employees to come back to the office, and the employees are like, no, you forced me to work from home and make it work, and guess what? I made it work, and I'm happier, and I don't want to do that. And so people are realizing that, like, they can really prioritize their own needs, and they can really, like, I don't know where I was going with that, but they can, like, figure out what they need at that moment in time.
Yeah.
And they can just make it work.
Well, it's just thinking about, like, we live in a society that, the American dream, like, you can really, what is the American dream?
Overworking.
Overworking. Like,
it's
the American
not.
dream is completely, it can be anything. It can be, I get to be with my kids. Like, I get to work from home now, you know? So it's just, overworking definitely, I think, has been realized that it was a huge problem, and now we're taking steps back.
Well, because it used to be glorified. It was like, I worked 80 hours.
I'm a
this
hustler.
week.
look at me, I hustle I hustled it, and I was on the ground crying in my bathroom, like thinking I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
No, hustle. No, my biggest thing is think smarter, not harder.
Well, and it's true, and it's like, but here's the thing. We talk about that part, but we don't talk about the ugly part that comes with it. Yeah, I was hustling. Yeah, I was working. 2019, we made almost $500,000.
It's amazing.
Fabulous, right? But my staff was stressed out. We had constant employee turnover.
Yeah.
I was so tired that I was waking up at 6 in the morning, having 4 shots of espresso, which I still have, barely making it to lunch.
Yeah.
Drinking more caffeine, and then I'm so wired by the end of the day, I'm drinking a bottle of wine at night just to decompress.
To go to sleep.
And then I'm not getting good sleep because I'm going to bed drunk or buzzed, and it's this self-fulfilling cycle to where, like, you have a mental breakdown, and it's like, but what is that quality of life? My kids hated me, it helped destroy my marriage, also I can say that we made $500,000.
Not worth it.
Oh, cool. What do I have to show for it now? Nothing. I mean, I do, but it's like my quality of life wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so I just decided that it's more important to me to live the life that I want and to not kill myself.
Yeah.
To have authentic friendships and relationships that we can pour into each other and support each other when we need it. To make sure that my kids know that they're loved and cherished, and then to not be always striving for the next thing, and to be grateful for what I have.
Grateful for what you have, and celebrate, we were talking about the wins. I think a lot of times as business owners, you're like, oh, got there. What's the next step? Mm-hmm. And it's like, but you got there. Good job. Good job. This is we got there. Let's celebrate this. And so often it's just like, nope, what's next?
Right.
This is the next thing. I gotta work. I just gotta keep working. What?
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And it's like we, oftentimes as small business owners, compare ourselves to these large companies.
Can't. Yeah.
And you can't, because it's like, well, wait. That CEO of that large, Jeff Bezos may be working a lot, but he's not doing everything.
No, and a lot of times small business owners are doing everything.
Jinx.
But yeah, and I think that's, it's so important to use the tools that we have. It's so important to take the timeouts that are important to us. And there's things out there to help us get into that state, like floating. To get into that state of mind where it's like, okay, this is what you're doing right now. And it's just such a beautiful thing. So do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was great. It was an amazing discussion.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
I appreciate you being here. I feel like you'll be back. We'll be talking about.
I might be back 5 or 6 or 7 times.
Yeah,
I might become a co-host.
Yeah.
And just weasel my way in.
So thank you so much.
Of course.
Yes.
Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, be sure to like and subscribe. Go ahead and leave a comment below, and check out more at be-sunshine.com.